Welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Phil Arno. If you're 36 years old or younger, you might be surprised to learn that there's a production in town, a theatrical production that's older than you are. It's at the Alleyway Theater, as a matter of fact, and it's called A Christmas Carol. And with me today is Roger Vandette, who is a performer in this particular production. He's been there for actually 15 years in this production. Welcome to the show, Roger.
Thank you so much, Phil.
This is a great production. I've been there a couple of years in a row and seen the way it's put on. It's a fun thing to attend. I really have a good time. Every time I've seen it, it's just really entertaining. You guys do a tremendous job there.
Thank you so much. It's always gratifying to have an audience that is really with you right to the very end. We greet them when they come in, we greet them when they leave. And in some cases, you know, we have people who have brought their children to the production, and now we have grandparents, parents, and their children coming annually.
And after 36 years, I guess you have it down pat.
Well, you know, you always have to brush it up. But yeah, it goes very, very quickly when you have people who are as experienced as the cast that we have. Again, we have David Mitchell returning as Scrooge, and he is just marvelous. His transformation
does a great job.
Yeah, he's a terrific actor and a good friend.
And you've been in the production for 15 years.
This is my 15th year.
What role this year? What role do you play? You play more than one role.
Yeah, I play several roles. I start off as a caroler. There are 4 of us singing Christmas carols that come from the time period that this would have been written in arrangements that you would have heard during that time. And then we come into the audience and we sing a few more carols, get everyone singing Jingle Bells, and then begin the show. The first role I play within the show is the poor tradesman, a tradesman who foolishly comes in and asks Scrooge for a donation. And we know how that turns out. Yeah. I play Fezziwig, who is his employer in the past, and he's a very merry character. And then I play one of the ghosts, the ghost of Christmas Present, because of course this is also a ghost story. We have Marley, we have Christmas past, Christmas present, and the Christmas yet to be.
And in other productions in the past, because you've been there 15 years, what other roles have you played?
These are all the roles that I have played.
Really?
Yeah, in this show we have, as in many cases, like with Hamilton, you have a track. You may play a couple different roles. And we have, like, the women. I think the women play like 4 roles. So they're always changing wigs and changing costumes so that you have a different look for the different characters, and many of us put on a different voice so that we can transition the audience to a new character or a new point in the plot.
Now, offhand, do you know how many people total are in the production?
Oh my, I'd have to count them up. But I would say about 10 to 15 people are in the cast.
Wow, and so that you guys really scramble when it comes to changing costumes and for different roles in between scenes?
Sometimes it can be very, very quick. My good friend Joyce Stilson and I help each other at times to change from one costume to another, because we both have what's called a quick change. And if the line is done and it's time for you to be on stage, you better be dressed and ready to go.
I'll bet that makes for some interesting stories.
Well, sometimes, yeah, you cut it really, really close. But so far, we've always made it. Oh, now I hope that doesn't hex this year's production. Now,
Neil Radis, he produces it, and he writes it, he adapts it for the space that you have. When I've seen it, it seems to be very true to Charles Dickens' original rendition of the story. He adapts it for your space, but it's really true to the story. I mean, you see several versions on TV and in the movies, but this one, I mean, if you know the original A Christmas Carol, this one really follows the story.
Well, I'm glad you noticed that. That was, I think, one of the most important things that Mr. Radis wanted to make sure would happen, that this was true to what Dickens had to say in this transformational play.
And in the space that you have, which is fascinating space, first of all, tell us a little bit about the theater itself, because the venue is a little unusual.
Well, it is a historical site in Buffalo. It is formerly a bus station. And I can remember, I'm sure you can too.
So as an actor, you're used to being in bus stations on the way, like, you know, catching the next bus out of town, right?
True. And you know, there is a spot, I remember going on a trip and looking up at a clock, waiting for the time to pass before we got on, and now I see that clock every day. But the space itself, as I said, was a bus station. Then it was transformed into a police station. And now it is a space that has conference rooms, it has a beautiful theater of 100, and then it has a smaller theater, the Cabaret, for more intimate productions.
Okay, so in the theater where A Christmas Carol takes place, it's not a huge space, but interestingly, it fits the story, and the story has been put into that space very effectively. The effects, the lighting, everything works just right. I mean, and that's a testament to how Neil has arranged everything.
Absolutely, and isn't that the power of theater? That it can draw you in. It's an intimate space, and it brings you into the story and makes it more real for the people who are watching it.
Well, in this day of movies, special effects, and you know, big blockbusters and so on, you know, that is a testament to what theater can do. You know, when you you add to the production with your imagination, and the special effects becomes much more than the sum of its parts. It adds to the experience, because you kind of fill in the blanks, really. And a good producer like Neil, he brings that out of the audience. It really is a talent, and it's done to perfection in this play. It really is.
Right, and his goal is always to make it realistic. It shouldn't be a cartoon. I mean, one of my favorite versions of A Christmas Carol is the Mr. Magoo.
Yes.
But that's television, and this is theater where one live person can watch another live person on the stage go through the experience and go through it with them.
How much rehearsal time goes into a production like this?
Well, we have a couple new cast members. That usually means we're going to have more rehearsal time so they can be ready. There have been times when the cast hasn't changed and we had very minimal rehearsal. So we met twice last week, and we'll be meeting twice this week and then all next week as we go into the beginning dates of the shows.
And what is it mostly the young people who kind of outgrow their roles, or is there other change in cast?
That happens, yeah, they get older. We do have one boy who was a Tiny Tim, and he's returning now as the older boy, Peter. And so that's always wonderful to see. And it's also interesting that, you know, when I first started, one of the boys who played Peter, one of the Cratchit kids, grew up, went into theater, and has appeared at Alleyway Theater in adult roles now. So it's wonderful to see how these kids continue on in theater and still enjoy it today.
And this particular play has gone on for 36 years, right?
This will be the 36th edition, that's right.
Is that a record in Buffalo? That's got to be a record, right?
My understanding is we have one of the records for being one of the longest running productions of A Christmas Carol in the nation.
Wow, that's special. Now the Alleyway is a lot more than just the Christmas Carol, A Christmas Carol. What are some of the other productions that are on throughout the year?
Well, this year we had Philosophists, which was a farce and a very funny play. We're doing A Christmas Carol now. Next up will be Bridge of Roses, a brand new rock musical, which will be directed by Neil again. And then after that, Joy Stilson will direct Buffalo Quickies, which is an evening of one-act plays, and they're usually just a wonderful night of drama as well as comedy.
In the cast of A Christmas Carol, is that cast are the actors part of the community of actors that basically go around to the various theaters for parts in other productions?
Oh, yeah, that's very true. I perform with O'Connell and Company. David Mitchell performs around town, and there are a number of other actors that perform elsewhere. Some of them have very full schedules.
Yeah, the theater community in Western New York is a very tight-knit community. I mean, the actors really get around, and it's everybody knows everybody, and you perform at all different venues, right?
You're right, and Buffalo is so unique in that they have so many professional actors and so many venues where we can appreciate what they're doing and see a quality production at a number of different places.
When I was in Los Angeles, I knew a lot of film and TV actors, and almost without exception, they mentioned Buffalo. When they knew I was from Buffalo, they mentioned that Buffalo was a great place for theater because they all grew up in theater, and they, when they weren't performing roles in movies or on TV, many actors, they go back to theater, to keep their skills, and they say Buffalo is just a tremendous place to perform.
And one of the unique things about Alleyway is that the mission statement is to do new works. These are some of the best plays you've never seen before. Some of the best musicals that have never occurred anywhere. You can come and see a world production of, a world premiere of a new show, and that'll be coming up with Bridge of Roses.
That's terrific. Well, you're going to perform for us a couple of numbers as well, and the Christmas season is all about good cheer and tradition. Certainly, A Christmas Carol that represents one of the high spots, the pinnacles of tradition in this area, and I recommend that everybody consider taking in that production because it is really the tradition in the area for this season. We have about 2 minutes left. What interesting stories behind the scenes might you be able to come up with?
Behind the scenes?
And again, we only have 2 minutes, and I'm sure you have a couple of interesting ones. But is there anything that sticks out in your mind about some of the experiences that go into making a play like this?
Well, the play always has to go on. And
that's what they say.
That's what they say, and we live by those words. And there was a point one time where Marley was supposed to be elevated through the floor, and unfortunately, we had a snag and it crashed. And so Marley was the head just above the floor, giving his lines. I think it might be interesting for the viewers to know that many years ago, in one of the earlier productions, my sister was cast in the show. And I had been teaching out of town, and I came in for the show and saw it, and I wished, if I could just be part of that show. And here I am 15 years later.
Have you always aspired to do theater?
I've always been active in theater, and also I'm a singer in the area, and I've sung at Holy Trinity Church for many, many years, and in other venues, the Buffalo Opera Company when it was at Shays. Okay,
well, we're going to wrap up this segment, but when we come back, Roger is going to entertain us, and I'm really looking forward to that. We'll be right back after this.